Alright, okay, good evening everyone. Okay, welcome to today's session. So as usual, we'll run through the markets over here. Okay, and we'll be highlighting some of the opportunities and what to take note of. Okay, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to put it into the chat. I'll be taking a look at them and address any questions that you guys have as well. Okay. So to get started, currently I'll talk about I'll talk about two trades here. The first one is the GBP USD. Currently just got tagged in as of today. Okay. We'll see how it goes, but ideally we want to see some decent reaction to the downside. The other one that we got stopped out was the dollar Canadian. It came down, didn't really react much of it, and then of course it just continued to move lower. The higher time frame perspective on the dollar CAD has shifted a little bit as well. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about the details as we mention as we progress to this pair here. But for now, we have this two running, right? Sorry, I would say one running, and then the other one is more of an outcome of the trade. Okay. So this one here, pound dollar, very quickly, it's actually a counter trend kind of retracement trade. Okay, if you are looking at the higher time frame perspective, we're simply expecting this to pull back, right? So we're kind of looking to trade a pullback trade. The overall structure and kind of trend, if you want to put it, is still bullish, right? Because we are looking at high lows. The idea of this trade is essentially, we're expecting a three-wave pullback, right? Simple WXY, and we're looking to capitalize on that pullback. Okay. Now the conditions and the criteria required for this is there. We did have the market imbalance fair gap in confluence with the FIPS. The only thing we didn't really get is really the liquidity sweep, right? We don't really have sort of a double top kind of structure. Okay, and that's where I kind of utilize the change in state of delivery, which where you can see here we have a series of bullish candle. The market actually closed below that. Okay, the other factor that utilizing a little bit of FIPS, right? We can also and anyway, right? We can also see that there is actually a simple true wave structure over here as well. Okay, so the 100 and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 aligns and confluence around that zone. So there's a little bit of element on that as well. So this trade is something that I'm pretty comfortable in, right? Even though there isn't kind of a liquidity sweep that occurs, but other conditions are there. Okay, and basically this is something that we'll see how things roll from there. Okay, dollar Canadian trade that got stopped out. This one, if you look at it, we do have a little bit of a liquidity sweep here. Okay, the only thing that wasn't really there in terms of the conditions is actually the market imbalance, right? There wasn't much of a fair value gap as this push was going up around the zone. Okay, we do have, if you're familiar with what we call inverse fair value gap, we have this fair value gap here. The market actually reverses above it. So that is what we call it inverse. But of course, ideally, if we can also get a fair value gap, that would be better. Okay. So this one here, if you go back to the higher time frame, if you recall, the previous structure we're looking at is market took out this, which potentially put it at wave 5, and we're looking at this as a pullback and then upside potential, right, to retest this top here. But of course, you can see the market came down today. Okay, so I kind of shifted that a little bit more towards being patient first. And of course, this trade here, we're gonna get an outcome already, so we'll just stay out of it for now, right? So those are the two. Just a very quick update on the ones that are active and have an outcome. Now for dollar index, this week here, the expectation is for price to continue to move lower. Okay, and potentially developing wave 5 as we are going down, right? So I do expect that the dollar index eventually would break, okay, or if it doesn't really break through very strongly, minimally we were expecting it to retest the previous low around the 98 region. Okay, so we are expecting downside for the dollar index, and definitely be more interested to look for sales trade setup. Right, so that will put us on the euro dollar being bullish as well. So of course we're expecting upside, and we'll be looking for buy trade setup, right? We do have one here today, but price continue to move higher, so it did not really pull back. We just need to then wait for the next setup to establish itself. Okay. So we'll see. This one here, obviously you can see there's a huge massive failure gap. It is tested. Okay, so right now I'm just gonna be patient a little bit, wait for another maybe 1 or 2 days, see how the market is going to develop. If this were to come back correctively, this would be a key zone, right? This would be a key level. Maybe we'll see some sort of a liquidity sweep here. Okay, then that's where we look for the buy. Okay, so we'll see how things are going to develop for this, but generally we're interested in the upside. Okay, pound dollar, we'll talk about it. AUD USD over here as well, we're expecting some sort of a pullback. Okay, overall we are bullish on this. Okay, but short term here we're anticipating some sort of a pullback towards this area. Okay, at the start of this crawl itself. Okay. So this one we do have a setup, but again, you want to be aware of the exposure. Okay, because if you're taking the pound dollar and then you're taking the Aussie dollar both in the same direction, you're kind of exposed on the dollar 2 times, right? So my suggestion is stick to one. And of course, both of this here isn't a trend following, right? It's kind of like trading the retracement, trading the counter trend. So overall, you want to just be a bit more cautious and conservative. Okay. So this doesn't really have a liquidity sweep inside it as well. So we simply have a change in state of delivery. Okay, and a smaller order block that kind of confluences a little bit with the 67. Okay. So it's not a perfect kind of like, all the conditions are met kind of setup. It's a valid setup. So the thing here is, of course, you wouldn't want to kind of like risk both sides on the pound dollar and Aussie dollar in the normal circumstances, right? You either filter off and take one, right? In this case, if let's say the pound dollar is active, maybe you want to take away the Aussie dollar trade setups, or you want to go in both, then you might want to readjust your risk, maybe cutting half the risk on each of this trade. Right? So something to note, right? We do have that opportunity here, but it's not a trend following. We're simply trading in retracement, right? So that's the context of the trade itself. Okay, USD JPY. We did had a nice decent bounce off the bottom here, but of course, the market came back down, equally impulsive in nature. So right now, we are gonna look at how is price gonna respond and react here. Right, because if it breaks through this low, then the structure may shift a little bit, and then we'll look at it as, all right, this 3 wave is completed, this is the first wave down, this is merely a correction, and then this can continue lower and retest or even break that low. Okay, however, if this low here is respected, okay, and the market simply tests the trend line in a deeper level and then start to give us some sort of a decent bounce back up, we can then expect this to continue higher. Okay, so for now, the dollar yen here would suggest to just be patient and see how the market is going to develop before kind of committing to that. Okay, gold here is pretty straightforward. We are definitely bullish bias. We did see price come down close to the 50% mark. Okay, very decent bounce as of now. So definitely looking at upside potential. Okay, we don't have a setup now simply because price is still near the top, right? So there isn't much that we are gonna look out for, because if you want to set up, we need to see price starts to retrace first, right? So technically for now, We have a clear direction. We'll basically wait for the setup to come to us, but this would take time, right? It's not likely going to be today. It's not likely going to be tomorrow. Maybe the closest time that we can look at a setup on gold would be on Wednesday. Okay. Yeah, right. Now this is on a 15-minute, right? If you're looking at like really intraday perspective, we do have the alignment as well because the 15-minute. Okay, this is definitely a break of structure. This would present itself as a swing low. Alright. We do have this here as a fair value gap, right? I mean, that's where the market actually gap opened today. If you take your fib from swing low to swing high, if you're gonna utilize the 67, it's gonna be around that, right? But of course, bear in mind that right now price is still developing, right? So we want to see some sign that it is pulling back. Then we know, all right, that's a temporary high. Then we can set the fib. All right, because if we don't, if the market just keep going, then we need to readjust all the time. Then that doesn't make sense at all. All right. So that's on gold. Okay. Then we have the silver. Silver right now is basically still in a consolidation, so really nothing much there. Okay. You probably just want to leave it, and wait until price make a breakout, right? So right now we're just gonna maintain neutral. Crude oil, bullish bias, right? So on the 4-hour time frame, right, what we are looking at is this correction may have complete. Okay, we have a very nice little sweep of the recent low here as well, and then impulsive push, right? So this is definitely moving towards bullish bias. Okay, so this one here is now neutral, but essentially we're looking at buy trade setup for this. Okay, we're looking at buy trade setup. We don't have a entry model yet, right? Because again, price is very much near the top. Okay, what you want to do is wait for price to start pulling back. Okay, then we have everything in place, right? We have the liquidity sweep, right? You can take it from here. Okay, you can take it from this low here. We have that sweep, and then we have this inner break as well. Right, we have this huge momentum candle, so that's where your value gap is. Alright, so once we start to see some sign of a pullback, okay, we can add in our fib to kind of find the confluence, right? So potentially something to look up for crude oil. Just again, not gonna be today, maybe tomorrow or the day after. Okay, S&P 500 bullish bias, but short term here we are expecting price to pull back towards the previous low, around 5,750. So this one here, do keep an eye on that level. Okay, if price comes down and give us a decent buy trade setup model, that's something that you can consider look to buy. Okay. To me, S&P overall, it's gonna be bullish bias. Okay, and there's a very good possibility we'll retest the top, right? We'll definitely retest the top. Then from there on, maybe even looking at all-time high, right? Breaking that and then continue to go higher. Right, so let me just clean up a little bit of the previous drawings. This one here, as long as price respect this swing low, okay, we are generally going to be more on the bullish side of things, right? But do expect this recent low, which is the key level here at 5,745, 5,750, to be broken, right? To be used as some sort of a liquidity sweep entry model for us to look for the buy trade. Okay, pound yen, nothing much. We did had a nice little bounce, but the price came very, very close to the top and then kind of react to that as well. So I'm actually just being patient for now. We may not have wait for here. This entire structure on count may need to be updated. Okay, but again, the count is not the most important aspect, right? It's really how price pattern and structure is developing. So for now, it's a little bit more on a V-shaped formation. So I would personally suggest that just be patient, and there's a very good odds that price would just retest this, right? And then maybe from there, you can still go higher. So as long as this level here is respected, right, this swing low, around 190.25 is being respected, we're overall still bullish, okay? Just waiting for a clear structure and, of course, clear setup. Now, AUD, JPY, this is something that I have an opportunity to look to short it in the short term, okay? So this model, or I say this structure is clearer, right? We have this push down with this pull back. We expect one more push, okay, to complete that three wave, and then from there, price can go higher, right? So in the short term, there is that setup opportunity here on Aussie, okay? So some of the conditions are met. You can see that we do have the high here, tested and broke it, right? But minor break and then reverses very, very sharply. We do have some fair value gap here as well, okay? And of course, we also have that inverse fair value gap, kind of confluence with the Fibs, right? So overall here, all these things pretty much give us a pretty decent setup for the Aussie yen. Alright, so in fact, if you take a look at all the opportunities and setup for as of what we have today, right? In terms of conditions and criteria, Aussie yen is one of the better ones, right? Because we have like liquidity sweep, we have like this minus swing low here broken as well. We have inverse fair gap, we have the fair gap here. So this has the most conditions fulfilled, okay, as compared to some other setups that we covered today. Right, so that's on Aussie yen. And then we have the pound odd. Pound odd actually might present something very, very soon. Okay, we had the price actually came and test this area. Pretty decent reaction, but not something that is very concrete yet. Okay, now what I mean by concrete is ideally we want to see like this low gets broken with momentum. Okay, and then when we get that pullback, that's where we can look to sell this down. Okay, now this development isn't very impulsive as well. It's corrective in nature. So overall, we are still expecting downside from here. The confirmation is for price to take out this low. Okay, with momentum, right? So if you're just gonna trickle down like that, very, very slowly without much momentum, it's not something that I'm very keen in. Alright, so just to show you what's looking at the lower time frame, we don't have a liquidity sweep. Okay, we don't have a liquidity sweep that is very, very obvious. Okay, what's happening with that? Okay, we don't have a liquidity sweep that's very obvious, but I would still take this as a potential double top. Again, I want to see this neckline gets broken with momentum. Alright, if that's the case, we have a little bit of a fair value gap here that we can use for entry model, right? If you want to be more conservative, this would be the neckline to get broken to confirm that, alright, this entire upside may be reversing. Okay, but of course, if you're interested to jump in on a potential trade earlier, price may not take out this low before the pullback, right? So in ideal conditions, what we would love to see is this comes down with momentum, starts to pull back. Alright, a very, very clean break of this minor low, pulls back towards a fair value gap, potential first trade down, take out this here, okay, and then eventually pull back, and then that might give you the second opportunity to get involved in. Right, so that's the kind of like planning ahead a little bit. Okay, so that's on GBP AUD, and then the last one here is Bitcoin. Okay, now BTC over here, do look out for the key areas somewhere between 102 and 100,000. Okay, look out for buy opportunity if you're into BTC. Okay, once price actually enters into the zone. Okay, but until then, just be patient, right? Wait for price to enter the key area, and then look for the setup within those key areas to look for trade opportunity to the upside. Okay. Yeah, so generally those are some of the things that I have. Intraday wise today there's isn't much because a lot of it, the price is basically still at the top or the bottom, when I come in the morning, right? So most of this intraday setups probably not today. Yep. Okay, so those are some things to note. Okay, cool. I see one on Euro Pound, right? Okay, H4 time frame. We do have this as a kind of crawlish structure, right? And then of course the market kind of reacted off that to the upside, right? So naturally, this one here on the lower time frame might give us a little bit of clearer picture. Okay. In terms of like SMC model, right? That's definitely your liquidity sweep. This is definitely a breakout structure. Okay, and of course this huge massive candle we can see, that's essentially your market imbalance. The market did tap into it once, but of course if this starts to pull back, right, this here can be acting as an internal liquidity sweep, which can increase the odds of a trade setup as well. And then of course if you take FIB from swing high to swing low, that would be something to look out for. Okay, so the hourly seems to be clearer. Then of course if we go back to the 4-hour time frame, you can even consider where price would take out this high, right? Yeah, right. So the idea here is like this areas hasn't been really tested after it broke. Okay, so the idea here is this can go higher, comes back down, and you can even push one more time back up before maybe the continuation lower. Okay, so Euro Pound here does give you that opportunity to the upside in the near term if you're interested in this pair. Okay. Good. Any questions? All good? Cool. If all is good, then generally that's all that I have in terms of like the update for today. Okay. Good. Yeah, so if there's no much other questions, basically we'll see how the market's gonna develop for this week. As of today, there are a couple of things that are on the table. Okay, so you can definitely keep an eye on those. And of course, the market is going to continue to develop moving forward as well. So we need to also kind of like adapt, right, as the market give us more information. Okay, so all the best for the week ahead, and as usual, we'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, all the best. Good night.